Well, it's good to see everybody this evening, and glad that you've been able to make it. If you want to, go ahead and turn the books, Johnny Rader's book, page 13. I actually tried to follow his outline to some degree, even though I tried to get confused on that I couldn't cover everything that he had in that. This is really our second lesson on this, from this book. The first lesson was more about an overview of marriage that Jason did, I guess, about 2 weeks ago. So I don't know whether that works out really well, but we've got a lot of material to cover, and so we'll try to get into this as deep as we can. Again, if you've got any questions or any comments, and let me just say this about these books: the questions are pretty laborious. So it comes to our all completely done. Anyway, they're very labor intensive. A lot of different ways of looking at it. And I would suggest if you don't do all, do at least maybe the answer questions, the ones that they're asking for your response in that particular way. There's some true and false sometimes, and there's some things about Scripture that may help you. And if you want to do it all, that's great. But I realize sometimes people's busy schedule sometimes gets in that way. But at least give you a chance to be somewhat have some kind of input into what the book, about what the lesson's about, so that when we get ready to do it, we can follow along with it. So before we get started, we're going to ask Chris Seagrups to lead us in an open prayer.
Our Father in heaven, with thankful hearts that we approach you this Wednesday evening. Thank you, Father, for another day of life that we have to enjoy. Thank you for all the blessings therein. Thank you for our health and well-being. Thank you for some of the sickness. Thank you for your word. We have the opportunity to enjoy your study in this class tonight. Father, we pray that you would help us to have open minds and hearts to know about your will for us. People now, Father, as we engage in this study, we say about your will for us. We pray that our hearts and minds will be open. And we pray that you would help us to learn those things, to have better homes, healthy marriage, not only to apply to our own lives, but be able to study and discuss those things to our friends and loved ones, Father. We pray that you would be with others in the teaching classes and students in other classes, and everyone would be able to open their hearts and minds to things that they study, and hopefully be well prepared to engage in classes. We pray that you would forgive us of our sins. We know that we often fall short of how you would help us live today. We pray that you would help us to live better than we deserve.
Generally speaking, there's a few years in your life where you make some of the most important decisions in your life. It may be the education you're going to get, it may be the type of job that you take. Probably no more important about your happiness than picking someone, choosing someone, and then choosing you back to spend your life with. And we're looking at this because it's such a serious matter, because sin is involved. And in most cases, we're going to start looking at divorce and remarriage. And we're trying to make sure that we understand what the Bible teaches there. My general belief is one reason that this seems to be so hard to believe or hard to understand is not because the people really can't read and understand. I think there are people who put themselves in a bad situation and they are looking at the fine print and all the little things and looking for a loophole, and we give them an excuse to get out of a marriage in a lot of cases. And basically that's giving rise to a lot of thinking, a lot of ideas, but the truth of the matter is they don't coincide with the Scripture. And so from our standpoint, I'm the old football coach. Keep it simple, stupid, don't kiss method. If you just keep Scripture simple in what they say, there's really not a problem with understanding a lot of this stuff. There are some things that maybe may cause confusion from time to time. But the truth of the matter is understanding what the Bible has to say about marriage, divorce, and remarriage is pretty plain. I ran across this: God will not bless the relationship He's not involved in. And I still want to continue to reinforce the idea that if God is not in the center of your marriage, if He's not the centerpiece there, it's going to be really hard to be successful, because you're going to have all kinds of other types of things pulling at you and not being centered by what God has to say. So, that being said, the first question I'd like to pose to you is, what is the purpose of marriage? Now, he doesn't spend any time, I think, talking about this. So this is kind of I'd say shocking, but it's not something that maybe was in the book. But what is the purpose of marriage? You know, why did God start this institution?
Make each other holy.
Okay, say it again.
So you can make each other holy.
So you can make each other holy. I hadn't thought of it in that particular term, but sanctify each other, to help each other get to heaven. And that kind of goes with one of the points of heaven. That would be a reason for it. What else is the reason that there's a purpose for marriage that provides for man and woman? This is not a hard catch, okay? It's not. I'm on a fishing expedition, but what is it? What else?
God said it was not good for man to be alone.
Okay, he said it wasn't good for man to be alone. Companionship. I mean, it could be when you hang around a bunch of animals all day, nobody to talk to, nobody to share anything with. You get ready, if something happens in your life, you turn around and you got a cow there, and you tell him what happens. What is it like if you don't have that companionship? What else? Children. Yes, to basically in the first chapter of Genesis, all the animals reproduced after its own kind. So basically, without woman, there would be no human race. Okay, what else? Any other ideas?
Paul said you can't control yourself. You can marry as far as sexual relations.
Okay. When it comes to sexual relations, that marriage is the only institution that basically the sex between two adults is sanctified by the Lord. What else? They're kind of hitting at all of them, and I'm just trying to get your input on it. The first thing I put is reproduce after your own kind. Genesis 1. I ran into this, and I hadn't really thought about it. God created man in His own image. When you have your children, generally speaking, they have, y'all follow along with us, what I think? They have your image, do they not? I don't know that you necessarily have children thinking, I want one that looks just exactly like me, or something along that line. But in essence, when it comes down to it, what are we supposed to do when we have children? We're supposed to bring them up in nurture and admonition, and we want their image to be very godlike. So I thought there was a connection there that maybe made a little sense to you, that there is responsibility as parents that we have there. Companionship. He saw it was not good for man to be alone. A lot of people refer to their significant other, their husband or their wife, as best friends. I've told this to some people. After 25 years of coaching and being close and winning the state championship, but never getting there. In 1999, we won the state championship, but what I remember is when we won, the first thing I did was I looked to the stands to see Donna. That's the first thing I thought about. Because she went through that journey with me, and she saw all the, places where we had fallen short by a few points and all that kind of stuff. She'd gone through that journey. But the first person I wanted to share that with was hers. I still remember she had a hat. Of course, I couldn't miss her eyes. And that was the first thing I looked for. So, someone that you can share with in that companionship and having that best friend, somebody that you can't wait to tell that to, somebody to talk to them about. And of course, same thing, you can respond back to people. To meet each other's needs. Now, I put several things here. What are the type of needs that people have? What are things that your children need? Or what are the things that your husband or your wife would need? It needs to be very general, but it has to be specific. Okay, as a man, he should be the leader and protector, should he not? The woman is a weaker vessel. Doesn't he provide it for her? She is provided as a helpmeet for him that's suitable. You know, we were talking about money on Sunday, and one of the things that I was trying to get over to you is that there are some things that my wife can do that really meets my needs, because I'm not very good at it. It'd be stupid. I'd be a very wise leader if I said, well, you know, I can't do it, but, you know, I'm going to do it anyway. It makes no sense to do it that way. Physically, we're talking about a lot of different ways: sexual needs, emotional and psychologically, spiritually, socially. All these things are provided when you look right down to it. When it looks at meeting each other's needs, there are things that you provide as husband and wife that you can't get in any other relationship. And one thing that I thought about too is if you're going to learn how to love unconditionally, what is a better way than to be married to someone for your whole life? Knowing that it's for better or worse, rich or poor, and there's no option out. How can you, where else will you learn it? One of the things that, when it comes to being a young person, that I heard a guy say one time, he said, one of the hardest things to teach a child is how to deny himself. And I think that's true with most people. We always want to look after number one, right? But what happens when you get married, you got a wife, or you got a husband, you got kids, what does that do to your responsibility? It diffuses it to them. They're first. You know, that's generally what's going to happen. You're going to put your emphasis there. Any questions or comments? I think we need to look at the purpose of marriage since we're looking at definitions tonight of different things. Okay? All right, we're supposed to understand marriage and other important terms from this. One of the things that I put at the end of this, and sometimes I don't get to the end, so I'll say it now, is, you know, definitions of words really mean a lot, especially when it comes to God's Word. And I have a bad habit sometimes of just glossing over a scripture, and there are words in there that I don't give them their due benevolence. I don't give them their due respect. And sometimes we miss out on a lot of things that we should think about when it comes to that. And so the idea of understanding marriage, and the first word is that idea of permanence, having the qualities of something perpetual, forever, everlasting. Some people go in, you know, I don't know if there's anybody that goes into a marriage thinking that this is going to be short-lived. You know, maybe somebody that's trying to dupe somebody in order to get money or something. I don't know, there could be those type of situations. But generally speaking, I think most people go with the idea that when they're getting married, they will be a permanent situation. But then sometimes I don't think there's some folks who really thought it out completely. It sounds good, it looks good, maybe that's the right timing, you know, maybe it's my age, I think it's time for me to get married. There's a lot of different reasons why some people get married. But this idea of something being permanent, is there any stronger word that would fit? Eternal? You know, what would be a stronger word that would fit what your marriage is supposed to be like? It's not, as we mentioned before, divorce is not an option. If you go in that and you and your wife have the idea that that's not an option, this idea of separating or whatever is never going to take place, and that's what we're going to hang our hat on, then, you know, I think you've got a strong case there to keep your marriage solid. Commitment, we talked about cleaving into, is a lifetime contract, a covenant that you're engaged in, you're promised to, you're obligated. Two becomes one. We talked about the idea of one flesh, and that, you know, the idea of cleaving, it would take a cleaver to cut that bond, and that's not an easy process. Also, this expression here, I don't hear it that much in the weddings I've been to recently. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. Who's that eliminated from putting a marriage asunder? Is there anybody that's given that ability? No, it eliminates it. And wouldn't you hate to be the person who intervenes between a husband and a wife and destroys a marriage? And that's becoming more and more problematic. One of the things we'll be studying, and I started to do it this next Sunday, but I've decided to put it off. We're going to be doing addictions, and there's some question sheets for y'all to get before we leave out. But we're looking at infidelity. today, the opportunities that our society has provided for people to leave what they got and go to something else have expanded exponentially. When we're looking at opportunities, just the social media itself is giving people a rise in occasion to find someone that's close to somebody else. The fact that through the years, the numbers of women who have risen in employment, and where it used to be women weren't in the same workplace as a man, now they are. They're working side by side. And you hate to think that every time you go to work that there's somebody who's on the make, as far as you're concerned. Nobody wants to go with that idea. But the truth and reality is that there's a lot of folks that get closer to their spouse because they spend more time with them at work than they do with their own spouse at home. And then that can really change things. So those are some things that you really need to keep in mind as we're going through this. There's something I ran into. Any of y'all heard of a covenant marriage? Any of y'all heard that term? I think I heard it one time, but it kind of lost steam when people started having difficulties with the amount of divorce going on. There's some states that decided that they would have a stronger bond in terms of what the state provides for you, and they call it a covenant marriage. And so I looked it up. Alabama doesn't have one. There's only 3 states that have it. But what it does, in order to get a divorce, it simply has a stricter criteria for divorce. It says if the couple chooses the covenant, they must receive counseling before getting married and before getting a divorce. They're not allowed to. The idea of no-fault divorce would not be an option. However, abuse, felony, adultery, abandonment, or long period of separation are conditions accepted for divorce. But there are some folks that in some places that recognize that divorce can become rampant and very easy to get, and because of that, it makes it more easily proliferated and spread. If you get right down to it, a lot of this has to do with economics and money, because if a man and his wife are both working, in the old days she wasn't working, she would hold on to her marriage because there was no place for her to go. Now, men and women mostly are working on somewhat equal footing, then it allows for both of them an opportunity. But you need to be aware that some people, when it gets right down to it, finances do play a big part in it. All right, what constitutes marriage? Now, I put this picture. Can y'all see what that is? Any of y'all ever heard of this before? This couple doing what? What do they do to eat? Where does this tradition come from? Okay. First I heard about it is back when slaves, back in the 1800s, they weren't considered as citizens, so therefore they couldn't go down and get a marriage license to do those things. So in order for them to be recognized that they were a married couple, they would jump over a broomstick, which indicated their willingness to. I tried to read what that meant. One was that they were sweeping away their own life. One is that the woman was getting ready to clean the house she was fixing to go and inhabit. It turns out that actually it goes to Wales in the England area, that area that they think that it may even originated there. But the idea, what I wonder about is, if we're asking what constitutes marriage, what are the things that we would think, what do you have to do in order to be married in the state of Alabama? So you better know this. Jason and I were talking about this. He says every time I go to a different state, he says I have to study and figure out what they're doing because I'm going to be counseling people. And it can be different. Not every state can be the same. Do you have to go through a ceremony in order to be married? What scripture says that you have to put on a white dress and do this and do that? What are those things? Traditions, okay? The rings, symbolic, right? Are these things that the Bible dictates that you do? No. Now, the things that they mean are very somewhat scriptural. But generally speaking, a lot of things that when you get married that you do are things that have been handed down traditionally for a long time. And I've seen those things change in my lifetime. a lot of different ways. But let me ask you a question. If you jump over a broomstick in front of a bunch of witnesses and tell them that you're married in the state of Alabama, are you married? James, you want this? Why? What would keep you from being married? Because what is it when you get married? What are you telling people when you say I do? Y'all are zero fun. Y'all do realize it, right? This is not algebra.
You become under a contract with that other person,
Okay.
technically,
And
What's the state?
with the state,
with each other
with each other, and
and God.
in God. Why do you do it in front of witnesses?
Hold you accountable.
Hold you accountable and to know that you are married, right? Otherwise, what would it look like if suddenly a couple shows up in the house together? There was no public marriage. There was no identifying as that's just what they're doing. What would people think?
That you're just shacking up.
They're just shacking up. They're living in sin. Okay, that would be considered fornication, correct? Am I wrong? That's right. Okay. So, for Christians, it's a compact, a covenant, a contract entered by a man and a woman and God. The intention is to live together. The ceremony really is just a thing to kind of let people know. Somebody said, well, I saw so-and-so and they were, they were going into the house party. Okay, that'd be nice to know it would. Okay? You're supposed to leave your mother and father and cleave to one mate. You're espoused, you're betrothed. Basically, why do we get a marriage license?
Because we'd also jump over a broom.
Do I? Because the law requires it. Now, here's a question. Does the state of Alabama require a marriage license? How many of y'all got married in the state of Alabama? Okay, did y'all get a license? Did y'all get a license? My understanding is you don't have to get a license. That the Senate blew that up. And the reason is it has to do with same-sex marriage. They didn't want people coming down and people having to fill that out when it's against their conscience. Okay? All right? You need to understand these types of things. When it comes to marriage, I went through a bunch of slides of all kinds of marriages. You can go to the Eiffel Tower. You can get married in front of 25 billion people. So, all right, my understanding, they don't hold this to me, but I've read this, and basically a couple of years ago, they decided in order to keep the same thing happening in Kentucky, that war, basically they released people that worked there an obligation of trying to get in trouble on fulfilling the law. Now, on the other hand, I've heard some states are trying to do away with the marriage license. I take it back. They did away with the marriage license, and they're trying to come back to it. Because when these people are divorcing, they're having trouble going through legal proceedings because, so I'm not married to her. We were just living together. We weren't married. But according to the law is, in most cases, if you present yourself as husband, wife in any way that people think that you're husband, wife, then you can be held accountable in that case. But it's not like there's paperwork. Now, my understanding on Alabama, you can actually handwrite what you're doing and give that to them. And they'll treat that like a license. I don't know. Lee, you're going to research that, you're going to let us know, right?
If we don't, we'll have a broom on standby.
Any comments so far? This is complicated legal issue. Proper age is 18. 16, 17, you need parental consent. And if you do that, you can't get an annulment. When I was at a school, there was a girl who was Catholic. She was one of 7 kids. Her mother wanted to divorce her husband. They wouldn't grant that to her, but they granted her an annulment. They've been married for like 20 years. To get out, they weren't going to give a divorce, but they gave them an annulment. So, no immediate, you can't marry your immediate family, step parents, but cousins are permitted. Just tell you what it says. In some states, Colorado, a couple who presents themselves as married are considered legally married. That's called a common law marriage. Also, no matter what happens, you have to go up there. If you've been divorced previously, you have to let them know so that everything's out on the table. You can't have been married 10 or 15 times and then show up and then just act like you never married before. But I think you need to understand that. All right, cohabitation is an arrangement for two people who are not married live together. We refer to this as living together, living in sin, shacking up, protest marriage, and some things that people call that. Some people say you're committing fornication in order to get married. I think I went over this before. There's an old song about so-and-so and so-and-so sitting in a tree, K-I-S-S-I-N-G, first come love, first come marriage, and then it comes right here that there was some truth taught in there that some people have never figured out. They skip the marriage part and they go right into living in sin. Even tonight, some of the shows I saw, they were presuming people who have kids, multiple kids from multiple marriages, and they're still not marrying people. And it's really corrupting our society. Hebrews 13:4 says, marriage is honorable in the law, and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers will God judge. So we want to make sure that we're not in those situations. Also, just some facts about living together. It's considered to be more stressful than being married. Marriage is tough enough, and if you are just living together, what is there legally there to hold you? If you don't have something that forces you in that situation. So it's got to be more stressful. If the guy's mad at you today or she's mad at you today, well, she'll be there tomorrow. Well, you're not married. There's no commitment there. 50% of only 50% get married that are cohabiting. It's a greater risk for divorce than non-cohabiting couples. Couples who live together before marriage tend to divorce early in their marriage. They also have a separation rate 5 times that of married couples. They're also likely to experience infidelity. Well, I'm not married to you. That's all you have to say. I'm not married to you. And they play that game. Also, there's more violence and fighting, domestic problems, and they always say they're less happy. Also, they earn less money, and higher levels of depression and substance abuse are located in these folks. I think that may go with just people making bad decisions and it just might just go together. People that cohabitate together without, that maybe that's just kind of their mindset on everything. Just do what you want to do. All right, marriage is marriage. Some people have difficulty when it comes to what is marriage. When the requirements are met, the couple is married. It's still a marriage. God considers Herod and the wife of his half-brother Philip married even though he had no right to it. I believe he brought this out because later on he's going to get into some people try to use these semantics in order to find a scriptural way of getting out of their marriage. Okay? And so that's the reason he's trying to give you these basic family blocks right here so that you will understand these situations when you get there. Some people talk about not married in the eyes of God. He may not approve of it. You may not have right to, but you still would be an adult. So some people are trying to use these things to get themselves out and put out in God's eyes. We may be able to fool some people and think that makes logical sense, but it really doesn't. Does a sexual union constitute marriage? I have had a conversation in the last few years with people who believe that if young people or anybody has sex with another person, it constitutes marriage. So y'all are surely not getting the answer. They believe that if that was true, what act would this include? The fact that somebody had sex with someone or intercourse with someone, what would be some of the situations that you know that that's probably not a marriage? Right? Would be one. What else? These things I don't really like talking about, but let's might as well be frank about what we're looking at here. Yeah. Somebody picks up somebody, casual sex, What else? Prostitution. It can go anywhere, folks, is what it amounts to. Rape, fornication, incest, polygamy, prostitution. If a man has sexual relations with 4 women, is he married to each one of them? Well, if what this person is reporting is true, then that would basically be true. And we know that's not true. We know that basically God set aside one marriage, one husband, one wife for life. All right. What about an encounter with a harlot? I go out and I get drunk, or I go out and I willingly, knowingly pay somebody for sex, and now, whoops, I'm married to them. There's a country song not too long ago that guy got drunk one night and wakes up next morning and the woman is his wife. That kind of stuff. I almost say it's kind of like what people talk about. What about unbridled lust by youth? Imagine a guy who's 15 years old. He has sex with a young girl and she's pregnant. Whoops, they're married. Does that make sense? Does that sound like what this is about? Right, we talk about, is marriage all about sex when it refers to becoming one flesh? I thought this might be something. When we talk about being one flesh, is that description really talking about sex only? The intimacy that a man and a wife have together? Is that really what that is talking about? It includes it. It's part of it. And it's an important part of it. We don't want to diminish that. But it's gotten weird. Don and I have been together so long, we yawn together. We say the same words, we say the same jokes, we start singing the same songs when something comes up that we connect with. It goes so much far further than just that part. As Chris said, that's a very important part. That's something that's special that only you and your wife or your husband that's for each other. But the truth of the matter is that when we talk about one flesh, I hurt when my wife hurts. I'm sad when she's sad. It goes just like sympathetic pains. You ever know, I've been having trouble with my sciatic nerve, and all of a sudden my knee down here hurts. Apparently it agrees with my sciatic nerve for whatever that reason is. Our terms defined: divorce, to put away, to loose, an annulment, legally into a marriage. Like marriage, divorce is divorce. While it might be legal, that doesn't mean it's scriptural. Fornication. Unlawful intercourse outside of marriage and illicit sexual conduct of married people. Also include adultery, incest, rape, homosexuality. When we look, there's 2 verses in Matthew that use the word fornication instead of adultery. Football is a sport, but all sports are not football. And they should have said that to the American. But the point is that adultery would fall under the headship of part of fornication. But fornication would include other things. Now, one of the things that some people will talk about adultery that we'll probably talk about later is what about a man who lusts in his heart? When we start talking about pornography and those sort of things, those are things that are coming in these classes. And that's sort of, is that grounds for divorce? Those are things that some people struggle with. So those are some things that when we get deeper into the study here, those are the things that we will probably get into and talk about. And I think it's important that we talk about some of those issues. Adultery, unlawful intercourse with someone other than your spouse. Separation, a husband and wife not living together. And when we've got time, we'll probably talk about 1 Corinthians, where it talks about a separation that is agreed upon for fasting and that sort of thing. We'll spend some time talking about that. There have been people who have abused that and used that to allow them to begin their divorce by separating, if that makes sense what I'm telling you. There have been some people that have come out and said, well, we're just doing that for this reason, we need some time apart, and they try to use that. And that's not what this verse is talking about, but we'll talk about that later. A bond, a covenant with God that joins us to our mate. Therefore, only God can break it. If there's a bond You know, only God can break that. So, those are some terms as we're talking, hopefully, you will understand what that's talking about. Because I know for myself, a long time ago, fornication and adultery, I struggled with what those two words really mean. Sexual immorality is a broader umbrella, so to speak, from different acts. And basically, adultery is, become unfaithful. It's used as a metaphor when it talks about God's people leaving Him, spiritual adultery, and so therefore it's simply being unfaithful to who you are supposed to be committed to. Any questions or comments? I know this is a lot to throw at you, but and I feel like probably there's some things that it's not like you don't know in some cases, but I still think it's something that we need to talk about. My conclusion, understanding the scriptures regarding marriage, divorce, and remarriage are essential to knowing the restrictions and limitations based on God's Word. Therefore, knowing these definitions hopefully will help you understand what God wants us to do and understand it. Any comments, questions? All right, I'll be teaching on Sunday. We're going to be studying about addictions and how that is a pitfall for marriage. And that's a wide variety. There's some questions that I kind of just spread around on the back. If you don't have them, then, I'll be glad to give them for you. I tried to make these few questions so that you'd be enticed to do them. And also to hopefully get you mind thinking about some of the things. Anybody else? If I teach in school, I'd be in trouble because I didn't teach bell to bell. That's when you have trouble. Anybody else need a sheet? Is anybody here that needs a book? Anybody need a book? Thank y'all for the class.